Welcome. I'm always happy to welcome my dear friend of more than half a decade. I saw that tweet, and geez, time flies when you're having fun. But I've got my good friend Nick Rishwain joining us today. Easy for me to say, Nick. I'm having a hard time. How the hell are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Mitch. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. I was really enjoying the very much talk show music that brought us in. That was nice.
Okay, and I get the message, and I'll change the tune for the next one. Did you
I
see
like
me down? Did you see me dancing down in the green room?
No, I didn't. I was doing the same
Okay.
though. I was like,
All right. Oh, were you? Okay. I'd like to see some of that sometimes. I certainly did try to get you out on the dance floor more than once. Listen, everyone, I'm excited. We've got Nick Rishwain joining us this afternoon here on the West Coast, early evening on the East Coast. Nick is the vice president of experts.com. He's also the founder of LegalTechLIVE, probably one of the internet's favorite live video, legal tech oriented show. He is a leader in the legal tech space. He's also on the executive committee of the California Lawyers Association, something that I know a little bit about. Thanks for all you do to help the lawyers in California help more consumers better, faster, and in a more effective way. It's so good to have you on, Nick.
Always good to be here, Mitch. Always good to see you. I was talking around the office today and said, "Hey, look, at 2, I got to be on with Mitch," and it's basically everybody's like, "Oh, okay, yeah, anything for Mitch." So the whole company feels that way. So
I got a text from one of your company. I'm not going to mention names, but they're like, "Why are you requiring Nick to hop on a plane out of San Francisco into Las Vegas to appear on this show with you? Apparently it's going to take all weekend and we won't see him until Monday morning."
Don't tell them that wasn't an actual requirement, but we'll have to do that when we actually can again, right?
I'm looking forward to it. And I don't know about you, but one thing I've noticed with this crazy upside down COVID world, Nick, is I really value more than ever the personal interactions, the weekend trips, right? Hanging out with good people like you at the conferences that we enjoy going to. And I'll never take that for granted again. But I guess, it's going to be more special because of everything we've been through. And speaking about going through a lot of stuff, legal tech over the last year has changed the way lawyers are using technology, the way they're communicating with their clients, probably what you're doing at experts.com, the demands, the needs that you're getting. Why don't we start things off today with, first of all, we want questions, you guys. Raise your hand, bring them in, comment on the platform that you're watching today's show on, hit the share button, share this out with your friends, and let's test out Nick's knowledge when it comes to legal tech, you guys. That's going to be fun. And also, if you guys have questions, I want you to please text your questions over to my community number, 949-577-7456, 577-7456. People love submitting questions by text. But Nick, start us off with, tell us a little bit, what's experts.com? What do you guys do? And how has experts.com changed, if at all, over the last year or so?
Yeah, thanks, Mitch. I appreciate that. Yeah, experts.com is a marketing platform for expert witnesses and consultants. Mitch is one of our members, has been for several years now. And it's strictly straightforward a marketing platform. Lawyers and businesses and government agencies, insurance companies who are looking for experts or consultants, either for litigation or for business consulting, some other form of consulting, they can market on our site and contact us, and contact the experts directly. They're able to, the experts, we're a subscription-based service, and the experts can go ahead and market their profiles on experts.com. The lawyers and government agencies and businesses are able to search our site, contact the experts directly. Mitch's information's up there. You can email him. You can visit his website. You can view his expertise. You can also view his consulting services. He's got 2 profiles with us. That's what we are. We're a marketing platform for experts. On the other side of that, when some attorneys don't like to do a search for an expert witness. They ask for help. Maybe they're uncomfortable searching, a little less tech savvy potentially. And and they'll contact us and we'll assist them with that search and help find those who are qualified experts for their particular need. So that's
So,
really what we do.
and you guys do it better than anyone else that I know of. But in the past, what we used to do, Nick, before our paths crossed, is we'd reach out to our friends, who's a good expert for this type of case, maybe even have lunch with that expert to get to know them. We can't do that right now because of COVID-19. How have you seen lawyers uh, acquiring experts from your site, reaching out to you? What's different because of 2020 that you would like us to pay attention to for 2021 when it comes to reaching out to experts.com, when it comes to, finding good experts, maybe even independent of your website, but just embracing technology so that we can help our
Yeah.
clients better?
As you're probably aware, I know because you're pretty tech savvy, and not everybody is, but as you're probably aware, some big changes that happened were kind of probably the biggest one that impacted my customers, and potentially even impacted your practice, were the need for remote depositions. That was probably the biggest change. Maybe some
Oh, yeah,
remote
yeah.
hearings as well, because we had now a lot of experts who themselves were not comfortable with Zoom or Microsoft Teams or WebEx or any of those systems. And I think, excuse me, I think we've come past that now. I think a lot of them have gotten more comfortable, and a lot of hearings and depositions are taking place remotely. And I think probably for the best. Certainly, I would hope. I would hope some of that continues, because that reduces the cost of litigation. The reason experts.com exists was to reduce the cost of litigation by removing a middleman from locating the expert witness and having to pay that markup, that billable hour on top of the expert's billable hour. So I hope that this remote deposition, remote hearing use of experts will continue. It also really makes it easy for an attorney to find the right expert, not just the expert who's closest. So if the perfect expert is out of New York, uh, and you're in Washington State, you can still get them without necessarily having them. I'd like to see some of that change. Or not change, but some of that continue. Now, I think as a trial lawyer, you probably know there's already quite a bit of feedback on how remote hearings work for jury trial, and there's some difficulties with that, and there's some real lack of engagement from the jurors in that situation. So I don't anticipate that the trials will necessarily continue in a remote fashion, because there seems to be some blowback on that. But even if you can reduce the cost of litigation up until the trial by doing more things remotely, certainly would love to see that continue.
No, absolutely. So Nick, let me ask you a question. One of the things that, two questions. The first is,
Sure.
if I'm a lawyer and I'm looking for an expert, maybe just walk us through 60 seconds or less how we can tap into the power of experts.com to do that. That's the first thing. I know it's back of your hand for you, but for someone that hasn't used the platform yet, I want them to know how easy it is to use. And then the second thing is, one of the things that's always impressed me about what you guys are doing is you're helping your experts prepare and to come across better if they're on a Zoom, if they're testifying by live video. We've done a couple of things together where we're trying to help your experts get up to speed on what lawyers expect from them, require from them, so that the experts can do a better job and actually get hired by those law firms. So number one, I go to your site, how does it work? And then number two, maybe talk to our audience a little bit about some of the things you do to help make your experts better experts.
Yeah, that's great. So you go to the site. On the site, there's a search bar at the top. You go to www.experts.com. There's a search bar right there at the top. You put in the keywords that you want to search. So if it's accident reconstruction, you type in accident reconstruction. That will give you a very broad overview of everybody who does any sort of accident reconstruction and markets their services on experts.com. You want to do a little bit more advanced search, you go down below that search bar, see a red button that says Expert Witnesses, click on it. Hi, AJ, good to see you. Click on that, go to the button that says expertise, and you can search through about 1,400 categories of expertise. So if it's not starting with accident reconstruction, then maybe you're looking for the biomechanics or ergonomics expert, something like that. And we've got over 1,400 categories of expertise that are widely applicable, something like traumatic brain injury or brain injury. That will give you a much more refined search. So you can do a keyword search or a category search on experts.com. It's really simple. If you're used to using Google, you can do it. You could even do it more advanced if you just go and find the list of categories and search through them for the category that you're looking for.
I love it. I love the fact that you guys keep it easy for us to find good experts. It hasn't always been that way.
No.
I'm a lot older than you, and I was around before the internet. Okay. And before the internet, it was really hard to find good experts. In fact, most of the lawyers would use the same experts. Well, if, Mr. Jones used that expert and got that result, maybe I should use that expert too. It's hard to do conflict checks. It's hard to make sure the expert that worked in that trial over there is going to work for you in your case and your client. And you guys make it super simple. Talk to us a little bit about how some of the tools, maybe for experts listed at your site. What resources are you offering to help them do a better job for lawyers and maybe get them up to speed on what's really happening around the world today?
We've used a wide variety. And certainly, that we use social media. That's how you and I met, how we became friends. So we use social media. Oftentimes, LinkedIn is very good for the experts. So I will do just basic LinkedIn posts telling them and linking to an article from, say, somebody else who wrote a really good article on Daubert standards, which is the federal standard for expert witness admissibility. But the Daubert standard or some A, B, and C of what you should do as an expert witness, or top 3 tips. I'll do those things through LinkedIn, through Twitter. We do webinars a couple of times a year, trying to do more, but we've been insanely busy, in part because of COVID, and grateful for that. It's funny, Mitch, that the attorneys have the shuttering of some of the courthouses for a short amount of time. Or for a couple of months, not all that short, really made the attorneys go ahead and start searching for experts maybe earlier than they normally would. Sometimes it's that 11th.
Wait. Do you find that lawyers might wait till the last minute to find a good expert?
Last minute. It is so common. It is so common. And so, COVID certainly helped us that way. It certainly also helped us with getting those AmLaw 100 firms. As soon as there is financial troubles, the AmLaw 100 firms start cutting out the brokers and all the added expenses, and they really start searching and contacting us. And so we're happy to help then. We're also happy to help when things are good. So,
which is even more fun.
Yeah.
Everybody involved.
Save the money up front. But yeah, I think I went around whatever your last question was there, Mitch. I kind of got on a tangent.
Yeah. Well, I know that you guys,
I know
we did a video together.
Yeah, we do the webinars, anything we can do to do training. And actually that, a lot of people do training and used to do training in person, but certainly COVID has made it actually, as you witnessed with your webinar, it certainly, the people crowded in because it was early in quarantine, and they're like, well, I might as well learn something. And we did some, kind of things that an expert witness could do for trial preparation, deposition preparation, and had huge success with that. So yeah, we try to educate through social media, through our blog, through webinars, excuse me, as much as possible.
And you do a good job of it. Some of the best experts are experts that have been around because of their years of experience before social and digital as we all know it. and they just don't know how to tap in and communicate over a Zoom, or maybe use some of these features to really build their brands, to help complement their listing at experts.com. And that's what I like when I watch what you guys are doing. You help them do that. You're always there for questions. The webinars and things that I've been involved with, I mean, this is cutting edge stuff that experts need to know in today's courtrooms, in today's depositions, because it's different than it was 20 years ago. But when you take someone with 30 years of experience as an expert, spend an hour of their time getting them up to speed on what's required today. It's not rocket science. They just need to know what bells and whistles to ring and blow. It's amazing to watch experienced experts communicate with today's juries, in a shorter, more concise fashion, maybe in tweets, for example, and understanding and respecting the time, attention of a jury and everyone else in the courtroom. It's just a different world. Once the light bulb goes on and they figure that out, those are the best experts out there in my world. I'd rather get someone that's been around and knows what they're doing.
Yep.
And so thank you for doing that, because you're making it easier for all the lawyers, not only here in California, but around the world, using experts.com in the United States to do a better job for their clients. Let's transition real quick.
Sure.
I think one of the advantages that you bring to the table, not only for experts.com, but for your customers or clients at experts.com, it's your legal tech background. And you've got a show, a company, a passion, LegalTechLIVE, LegalTechLIVE.com. I believe that's the correct URL. And actually, when I've reached out to friends, many consider you as one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to legal tech and law, the conversion of the two, what's happening, what are the trends, how should we be using this stuff? And that was another reason I wanted to have you on. Tell us a little bit about what is LegalTechLIVE? Why'd you put it? What were the thoughts behind putting it together? The passion, the interest behind that? And
Yeah. So, I was in what I've often referred to as Legal Tech 1.0 with experts.com. Been online since 94, excuse me.
Really, that long?
Yeah. Been under current management since 2001.
Wow.
So it was a very early legal technology, where internet meets some legal vendor service. So I had been doing that for about 4 or 5 years. And then I was like, boy, I started hearing a lot about some of the advancements. I dig technology. I dig robotics and things like that. I'm amazed by it. I don't have any sort of engineering background or very minimal development background, but I'm interested in these things. And so I started seeing that a lot more what I thought were more fascinating versions of legal technology. The chatbots were starting to pop up. Automation was starting to pop up. Some machine learning, early stage machine learning. This is like 2014, 2015. When I really started kind of getting hooked. It was what I saw as more advanced versions of legal technology. E-discovery was kind of, up until that point, the biggest player in the room, I think, other than, say, your Microsoft, your Word, and your Outlook, and those things that certainly have been game changers in the legal industry. But yeah, so I saw these things and I was like, this is cool. People are building some really neat stuff. And I like the startup journey. I like the startup life. So I did it as a hobby. It's really just a hobby, Legal Tech Live. And experts.com is one of our sponsors. So my company is one of the sponsors of the show, and I record here in the office on Thursday evenings. So it was really just a passion project to see, because I have that background of the technology and the law background. I went to law school. I don't practice, but I just kind of wanted to see other services and tools and technology that people were using to improve the practice of law, improve legal operations, improve access to justice, and improve the justice system in any way. And I just wanted to talk to people who are doing cool stuff. Honestly, that's how it started.
Nick, when you say you go live on Thursdays, tell our audience members, what are you referring to? You go live how, where can anyone watch? Can anyone reach out to you to be a guest, or how do they digest the content after the fact, if it's possible? Maybe submit questions, things like that.
Sure. Yeah. No, we do go live on Thursday nights. It's two ways you can view it. You can join the Facebook Legal Tech community, which is specifically not named the Legal Tech Live community. It is, even though I manage it, I specifically made it about the community. And the only thing that I do that's anywhere near self-promotional in that community is that I live stream the show into that community. We record it. You can also find it, all the replays visible on LegalTechLIVE.com. But the community is really about the legal technology community and not specifically about the show. You can.
What is the community called? I'm going to type it in so everyone can see it.
Legal Tech Community on Facebook. It is a closed group for those of us who are legal tech nerds. It is you have to answer questions to join, and it's a private.
Is that right?
Yeah, there's a space. I think there's actually a space between legal tech and community, but you should be able to get to it with that.
Legal Tech Community.
Space community. Yeah.
Okay. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, that's fine.
I like playing around with this stuff. So.
Sure. That's how you learn these things, is you play with it. That's how you adapt to change, is just by playing around. And so, yep, that's it. And so we go direct live into Facebook. There's a lot of people in, say, the crypto communities or in privacy communities who don't like Facebook all that much. So you can also register to watch the show through Zoom. And I usually post that. I usually post that on Twitter through the Legal Tech Live handle on Twitter, or through @NickJRishwain on Twitter. So that's how you can watch it. You can register in Zoom, and you won't get emailed from me. There's not a newsletter attached to it or anything like that. You won't get hammered with more emails afterwards. You can sign up and watch, and then be left alone thereafter.
I want to ask you about some of your favorite episodes, or maybe some legal tech products or services that have either jumped out to you in the past, or maybe you'd like to see come on the show. Maybe it's not even something that's groundbreaking or game changing, but it was of interest to you. Before we do that, just because of the quality of our audience, Nick, some of the comments and questions we get. Apparently, this is the question that AJ, he is out of Georgia, so I'm going to give him a break. But AJ says, for those of you listening to the podcast version, I'm bringing up over Nick the screen. I've been watching Nick for many years, even back when he and Ivan did shows. He's brilliant and so helpful. I agree, AJ. I do have to ask, though, the tree behind him seems to always remain perfectly green. How is that? Interesting. So inquiring minds want to know, Nick.
Yeah. This is that's this one. This is the ficus, or somebody refers to it as the ficus. It is a fake tree, AJ, and somehow it loses more leaves than a lot of real trees. I don't understand it. It is plastic, and it loses a lot of leaves, and there's no explanation for it.
We had the same issue in our old law firm before we moved, Nick. All of the beautiful fake plants. I think the cleaning people come in at night, and I think when people rub up against it, we'd find leaves in the morning, right?
Yeah,
and that's probably what it is. Let's go. AJ, great question. Thank you for basically wasting Nick and my time. No, I'm just kidding.
That's how I like it.
And AJ has a sense of humor, and that's why we're busting his chops right now.
AJ knows that I thrive on chop busting, so he has been a long time viewer of the show since Ivan was at the time a co-creator of the show with me, and then he got busy with other stuff and left. But AJ was an early visitor with us.
This is too funny, Nick. So we're getting questions, you guys, from I can't bring them in. We're getting questions from my community text number, which is 577-7456. Two of the last questions, Nick, have to do with your tree. Oh my
Excellent.
goodness. This is why I love the internet. This is why
Yep.
social media rules, right? We'll have to do a show about your tree at some point in the future.
The
Let's
tree is in all the shows. It'll be in the show tonight. So people, so
you should
it
put
is
the
like,
tree where you sit and go stand
yeah,
back there where the tree
yeah,
is. Hey, listen, let's pivot just for a second. But,
sure.
seriously, with respect to the amazing people, products, and services that you're uh, interviewing or chatting with, I know many are friends of yours on the show. What have you had come up in the past, or you're expecting to bring on, in 2021? That has kind of knocked your socks off, kind of left you speechless, or it's like, hey, you know what? This is pretty cool. I need to learn more about it. I'm just curious.
Yeah, so it's such a, I really have a big heart for anybody who's building a company. So it's hard to choose one that is like really stand out, amazing. Certainly one that was appeared to be a fan favorite just by the number of live viewers we had on it. Was a company at the time was called Don't Get Mad, Get Paid. Uh, I think you were even there for that one. She's helping with child support collection, and they've changed their name.
Yes.
They changed their name to Athena, I believe. And certainly there is a huge need in family law and child support in collecting from what are they called? Deadbeat dads was the old terminology. I'm not sure if we use that anymore because
I
it
think you
certainly,
just did.
yeah, that certainly I did. Yeah, it
It was
certainly
just
all
fun.
can
But
apply to apply to
yeah, but she
any.
said a majority were dads that
Yeah,
wanted to
that was
pay
her
their spouse.
experience. That she was her target audience was mothers who were not getting paid. So that was like a fan favorite. There's some really cool stuff. Just a really handy one out of the UK called Define, which just made editing contracts in other things just so much easier, so much faster. I think it was just a WordPress plugin. There's some awesome stuff happening in legal analytics. Another actual sponsor of the show, but who's been on the show like twice as a guest, once as a co-host, because I've been so impressed with their growth in their ability to find out information from state courts, not from federal courts, because there's really cool stuff happening in the federal court legal analytics space as well. Um, but the state courts, they're the only ones I still know about whose focus is on the state court data, judges, um, judge rulings, and again, expert witnesses who you can actually go through and see how they've written reports and all this stuff, which from being in California, that even in California alone, trying to find this, if you're I'm in San Joaquin County, you're in Orange County, if you're trying to get access and you send me over to the courthouse because you need something on a case there, and I happen to be here in town, and you send me over there, finding the information is not easy. Finding the judges' rulings and things like that is just not the simplest thing in the world. It's difficult because every jurisdiction has a different system.
And that's the
And
way we used to do it.
that's the way you used to do it. You'd send somebody else. And in fact, yeah, you can see my last time in a law firm was I'd go over to the court clerk's off, I'd go over to the clerk and I'd request the files, and then we go through it, and then you make copies. So it's been a long time. Strangely, sadly enough, in many counties in California, that has not improved significantly. Although a lot more information is available, but Trellis does just some fantastic legal analytics at the state court in
How do you
being
spell
able.
that?
Trellis. In fact, they're down in your neck of the
Mhm.
woods. Nicole Clark would be an awesome guest to have on the show. She's fantastic. She'll blow you away with how smart she is. She's certainly far smarter than I, which means she's way smarter than you.
Goes without saying.
Right. Yeah. I just had to throw that in there. I couldn't make it through an entire show without busting chops a little bit.
Oh, I'm used to it.
You do a great job with that. And certainly this year, so And then there's some just phenomenal access to justice stuff that people are working on, helping public defenders make it through video and audio recordings more easily, more efficiently, and pull out those little pieces of this is what the cop said and this is what my client said and things like that, body cam footage, right?
Mm,
And allowing them to make you know, allowing them to essentially make the timeline, use the evidence more effectively and efficiently, and go through these these huge files of 4 hours worth of body cam footage or much more efficiently, uh, quickly. And so that's interesting. There's people who are doing access to justice stuff that is helping pro se litigants in small claims court. There's just a variety of things that are right on the edge. They're not really practicing law. They're just helping make it easier because we have a huge problem in the US of people trying to go to court on their own, right? And
right.
most of them unrepresented. So there's some really exciting stuff where they're not giving legal advice, but they're just helping people through the process, which is a lot of what lawyers do, except lawyers can be really expensive. So
Hmm.
fascinating stuff in those spaces. There's just a variety of spaces. It's so hard for me to choose just one because I
Oh, I
usually am
know.
committed to everybody who is on the show in some way or form. Certainly don't invite every single person on the show or every single company on the show because try to continue to support them afterwards. So there's sort of a how do we help give some attention to those who really need it, who are trying to do really great stuff, and it's hard to get some signal.
I just really wanted to put you on the spot, and
I don't
I think you no, but seriously, your answer kind of gives me an idea of what's of interest to you, and what maybe catches you by surprise. And if you don't mind, we have quite a few text messages coming in. I could kind of paraphrase and combine a few on
sure.
this very topic. I guess one of the questions that what I'm seeing is. Uh, we're all realizing, and I don't know who this is from, so I apologize, you guys. Let's see, we're all realizing the power of cloud computing. And are you finding that most of the newer legal tech, is it cloud-based? Is it something that you need to be running on your server in your office? What's your take based upon the guest and their feedback to you, their input while being on the show?
Yeah, predominantly those that I've interviewed, maybe because of my interest in technology and SaaS products, uh, or software as a service products. Predominantly, all of them are cloud based or some form of cloud based. There's a lot who also offer related. I mean, experts.com, for example. I just saw Mitch just reminded me. It's you can communicate with all your experts through your account on experts.com. We were cloud based before we called it cloud based.
Really?
Yeah, we would call it web based. Cloud, it is,
Okay.
yes, almost all of them today are some version of cloud based. If they are not a plugin of some sort, and there are some great plugins, and we have a mutual friend, Ivy Gray, and Nicole Abood, who both work at WordRake, which helps lawyers and others to write better briefs. I probably butchered that with bad English or bad grammar, and Ivy will let me know. She'll razz me about it later. But like they're a plugin or an add-in to your
Yeah.
word
It's
software,
awesome.
and it's a phenomenal tool. So some mostly cloud-based, but some are your plugin
Okay.
add for Outlook, Word, those types of things. Anything that probably what I've seen most is the products for those who are in the startup space. If you can build a product that already is built into something that is within the lawyer's workflow, or if it's not the lawyer that you're trying to sell to, the other user at the law firm, because there are
Ooh, I
other
love
users,
that.
including paralegal and legal assistants, who oftentimes know far more technology than the attorneys.
That what you just said, I think, is so important, is knowing who your audience, your target audience is, and then building or designing your product or the delivery of that product to accommodate that particular audience, which kind of leads us to the next question, and that is, are most of you, the people on your show, are they creating the cloud-based products, which we just talked about, or are they focusing on apps for our iPhones or Android phones? That's a good question.
Yeah, most of them have been cloud-based products. I think several of them offer apps. One really interesting one, the only legal tech healthcare kind of crossover that I've seen so far. It was a really fascinating one. That time they were called Sunset Health. I think they still are. Was an app specifically, an app for identifying burnout. So it wouldn't necessarily just be the lawyer, but anybody in their, they were trying to sell this as part of the employee assistance program, as I recall, which would allow to avoid those big law firm employees from burning out. They would check in and they would answer this kind of burnout question, because burnout then leads to a lot of other issues around health, including, as we know, depression, and we know that alcohol and related things are a big issue in the practice of law. And so if they can identify and intervene on these things earlier, they can avoid. So if they can get there before the burnout starts to take place, and offer some sort of interventions, and some of them can just be as they were, as I recall, some of them were just as easy as, hey, we're taking Friday afternoon off, don't check your email, don't do this stuff, everybody take off, if you're feeling that way. So that was really cool. That was an app based. There are certainly app based startups out there, but a lot of them are both browser and app based. There's a lot of app, but a lot, or they are specifically cloud based services.
I've got a question here, Nick. Do you mind if I just fire through these questions? Because I think this is what's fun about live is we know what people are thinking, and we can this one has to do with, have you, I think you have, because I think I was watching one of your shows. Have you interviewed trial timeline software services? So maybe describe what a timeline is in case we have people watching that aren't lawyers, both live or recorded. And will it work with the Zoom mediation or arbitration presentation? Okay, so trial timeline software.
Yep.
And do you know any that work with Zoom or with StreamYard?
Yeah, the one that I interviewed, and this was that they duped me a little bit, and I say that friendly because I'm friendly with the founders of it. But I had no idea. Like I'm looking for companies. In the past, I was looking for companies who were like 18 months, year to 18 months in age. They were technically that, but they'd been in development for more than 2 years, and it was just one of the cleanest interfaces I've seen on an application. Like they had spent a serious time developing this, and it was called Trial Line. That was I'm gonna blank on it for a second, but Trial Line, I believe, .net. This was a phenomenal, really clean legal timeline software. So legal timeline software, and Mitch can add to this, right? Because he certainly deals with these a lot more than I do. But it's a kind of the chronology of events from let's say accident or injury, or where the surgery went bad. I went home. I had issues after the surgery, or I had to go to a separate doctor, and things like that. And it's sort of it's the evidence of everything that you went through from, say, that point of contact, which was the incident, the accident, the injury. I know that there's been some defense counsel who has used this as well, from the time of arrest and everything that happened since that. So it's building a timeline, and trialline.net it was just fantastic. I mean, it was we actually at this time we had actually done kind of a demo on the live show because it was really so impressive and so clean. So
Very cool. Very
it
cool.
is cloud-based. And I think you'll find that interesting, and I would go check them out. And I can't imagine there's any way this could not be used on a Zoom, because you would just share your screen.
Okay. Okay. Because that is how we are communicating right now. What I found is most lawyers on Zoom mediations or arbitrations or with the court right now, they're doing what we're doing right now, except it's just you and I. Okay.
Yep.
They're not using exhibits. They're not using overlays. They're not using digital trial lines. And that will help make your presentation pop. It'll make you stand out from all the other lawyers in court that particular day, and the judge will talk about you. The judge is going to say, you're not going to believe what I just saw. And it's really pretty easy, Nick, when we're using eCam or overlays and the software and the legal services you're talking about. Imagine expert witnesses embracing this technology to help make their point during a Zoom presentation or during a Zoom video deposition.
Yep.
I mean, that's huge. That's
anything you can do to, as Mitch has said before, I think even in the webinar, if you can tell that story in a more compelling way or more succinctly to get across your expert evidence, there you go.
It makes a huge difference.
Makes a huge difference.
We'll have a friend of yours and mine joining us, Miss Nicole Abood, who says, hi, guys. Hi, Nicole. It's good to see you.
You are missed. We want to see your face more.
All the time. And Nicole, and while you're here, thank you for the shout out in your post yesterday on behalf of WordRake with I think it was 8 lawyers who wrote legal marketing books. So that was very kind, Nicole. Thank you for including me and some of our mutual friends, right, Nick?
Yep. Yeah. So she gave you a shout out without giving me a shout out, which I'll talk to her about that later.
Really?
Yeah, but I guess she and I also did write a chapter in the book, so it's kind of like an indirect shout out.
What chapter was yours? I'm looking right now.
I think I was 47, Mitch. I think it was
47. You guys, hang on. 43, 46. Oh, no, you weren't 47.
No. 46, something.
You were 46 right here.
It was.
Chapter 46 in the book, you guys. One of our more popular chapters, by the way.
Naturally.
I mean, that goes without saying. And what Nick talked about was when sharing and writing blog posts, what he does very well is he incorporates into the blog posts on behalf of experts.com. He'll reach out to many experts that are part of experts.com for their expert commentary that he includes in the blog post. What a brilliant way to not only create a blog post that has value for the rest of us, but you're also shining a light on experts in the community. And that's I love how you did that. And that's why I asked you to share that chapter and that approach in the book.
It's been fun. And I did it. It was sort of a take on advice that you'd given before about, in fact, it's probably more Bob Berg's advice than either of ours, right? And it's kind of trickled down. It's about kind of being the go-giver. It's what I try and do on social media. It's what we try and do on LegalTechLIVE. It's what we try to do on experts is give more than we're taking.
Like we are right now.
Right.
Like we are right now. You brought this up right here.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, that's
Nicole, this was Nick bringing this up right here.
That's right. Send me my check, Nicole. But this, that whole idea of giving more, and then giving as well as your newsjacking, which was your chapter in the book, as I recall, or one of your chapters in the book.
Yep.
The newsjacking idea, which hugely important. So I took that newsjacking as well as include our experts and had a lot of fun with that, because when something big happens, that I can go immediately to one of our customers, one of our experts, and say, hey, I want to do a blog post on this, just like the New York Times would do, just like a Washington Post would do, where they immediately reach out and they try and find experts to give some sort of commentary on the topic. Well, that's what I did. Some really interesting ones. I mean, that really
share a couple. Share a couple that
surprised that they did so well. That doing that process was one of the big ones that I was surprised that did so well was, do you remember the Florida International University bridge collapse? You remember that that bridge collapsed? I think it was you walk across the 4 lanes to the university, and so the walking bridge collapsed and landed on a bunch of cars underneath. It was a horrible incident. And usually with newsjacking, you don't want to attack necessarily a horrible incident and try and benefit off of it. And so that I was cognizant that that's not what I want to do. What I wanted to do was talk about how this bridge could have collapsed and who might be responsible, what needs to be interviewed, how these, how you would preserve evidence, I believe was another issue, what needs to be considered and what needs to be looked at, because there were several deaths in this. It was a serious incident. So that was one of those things where I took a little bit of the issue spotting from law school and brought in the experts and then wrote an article that was about this bridge collapse. And then you never, ever fail, for all of you criminal defense attorneys out there. You're never going to fail on a blog post you do or a piece of content that you do is true crime related, because people are so hungry for true crime related content. They love it. It's almost fanatical, or just hobbyish. It's really incredible. And we've done some. Walter Reeves and I did one, I think, on the one of the Legal Minds. Somebody I met through Legal Minds, Walter Reeves.
That's right.
And we did this big one about the Netflix Staircase. Was the documentary that people were watching at the time, and it was in this documentary, this guy talks about how much it costs to provide a defense for himself in this case. Spent over $500,000 to have a really good defense. So we took that as, now how do you apply that to regular Joes who don't have the means to provide a defense? And we wrote that article. And if you had to hire the multiple attorneys and you had to hire multiple expert witnesses and you had, if you're indigent, providing a defense is real difficult. So
let me ask you a question. So if I want
the clicks just because of we had the true crime, we had the Netflix documentary that already did it, and then we added some experts, some criminal defense input, and my input, and we just made it while it was a hot topic.
So if I wanted to read that, by the way, everyone, Walter Reeves is a gifted criminal defense attorney out of Texas. A lot of high profile cases. He had some of his cases have been written about in books, documentaries have been done. Connect with Walter. If you have a hard time finding him, just reach out to me and I'll share the links. But I guess they could also go to experts.com, go to your blog and do a search for Walter Reeves or
Walter Reeves. Yeah, I think it's or it's maybe REAVES.
And you can connect with him there. I'm sure the link's in there someplace. Yep. Hey, Nick, in the last 5 or 10 minutes or so, just really quick, because we've got some questions here.
Yeah, let's go to the questions.
If you don't mind. Yeah. So what type of experts have you seen be in demand to handle COVID-19 cases? And I guess the second part of the question, it's a separate text, is there any legal technology that you've seen that relates to COVID? So COVID experts, COVID tech.
Yeah, so I haven't seen any legal technology related to COVID other than some of those tech stacks that we've already been seeing being put to use with, Zoom or Teams, Microsoft Teams, etc. That's being used a lot for the law firms that I've spoken to, or their chief information officers or their procurement folks that I've spoken with at Big Law. Really, some of the big stuff that they had to figure out, because now they had everybody in an office. Mitch's daughter went through this experience. They immediately went to a distributed workforce where people were working from home. So not COVID specific legal tech, but a lot of the cybersecurity issues were at play, because you're dealing with attorney-client privileged information. So how do we, in a lot of firms in that case were giving out these secure laptops that they could then log into their desktop or log in through a portal into their desktop or into their law firm's kind of central system, and that was interesting. So not COVID related specifically. On the expert side, there have been a variety of issues. Now this one's been happening kind of, this space has been growing for a while from the data that I have, but the correctional healthcare issues had been growing pre-COVID. There seems to be more litigation, so around how inmates are treated in the healthcare they're receiving, and that stepped up some during COVID because of being imprisoned or confined was a very dangerous, and interacting with a lot of people became kind of a dangerous place for COVID. Much the same, it spread much the same in jails and prisons as it did in nursing homes. So that has been kind of a continuing, ongoing issue. The other one that has been really interesting, and probably most people are aware of it, is the insurance. Business interruption insurance litigation really spiked last year because a lot of companies shut down, restaurants, businesses, everything were all shut down. We had these stay-at-home orders and things like that, and businesses were losing money. And there's some serious litigation going on as to whether or not COVID, whether or not the infectious disease is actually covered in some of these business interruption insurance claims. Common sense would say no, based on everything that an insurance contract disclaims. But a lot of lawsuits came out of it. They just didn't have a choice. I think a lot of companies didn't have a choice, and they had to try and sue the insurance company, even if it was not infectious disease was disclaimed. They were still trying to recover because they just didn't have a choice. So those are two that really stuck out.
Okay.
Particularly notable.
What's interesting is as the law changes, as society changes, as things happen like COVID-19, it almost creates, I think, a new demand for a particular type of expert, or maybe an entirely new expert. And I think it's, look, this is technology, science, the internet, social media. This is the cloud. This is the direction our business world's going.
It was already going that way too.
Yeah, it's already going that way. Exactly. Yeah. And so finding experts at experts.com that can fill your needs for the litigation that's already happening in these areas, it's important. And I think as lawyers, it helps us do a better job for our clients, having the best experts we can find to help us win our cases. Hey, Nick, wrapping things up with the last question. I know you don't like to forecast the future, and I don't think this is Julie via text is asking you to, but what would you like to see when it comes to legal tech? Whatever your interests are, whatever your passions, your causes, what would you like to see designed or rolled out in 2021 that you think will make the legal industry a better place for lawyers, for clients, and for general consumers?
I'd like to see some change in the legal regulations, I think. I'd like some of these startups who are trying to help people to serve themselves, because you have to understand.
Give us an example. What do you mean by that?
So self-represented litigants, and I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but it's like in civil cases in the U.S., self-represented litigants, I think 74% of them are self-represented. Okay. So that means only 25% or something like that are able to afford an attorney to help them in some form of civil litigation. So lawyers are not going to lose work by some tweaking of the unauthorized practice of law regulations, or potentially having, that's what a lot of legal tech companies get hit with or are afraid of, is being sued for unauthorized practice of law when they're trying to offer a service that helps self-represented litigants to access the justice system. So I think some regulation changes, in all jurisdictions in the state, California and elsewhere, would be really great for us to actually be able to see big chunks of that market that aren't really getting serviced by lawyers, because they're just not going to pay for it to begin with, and lawyers probably don't want that customer anyway. I'd like to see them get some services from some of the legal technology companies. I think that would be.
So how, like, what do you like? And I don't mean to be rude by interrupting you, but what do you mean? Like an app that allows a self-represented consumer to be able to tap and file a lawsuit, or to appear in court, or enter a not guilty
Yeah,
plea, or is that what you're talking about? Access to the court systems?
actually easier, but we all know that form related stuff for the courts, those of us with legal backgrounds, and if you're trying to fill out a form, it's just a nightmare.
Right.
I'm talking about going to a paralegal who can help me to fill out the form so that I can file my divorce. I'm going to a paralegal to help me to maybe register a will, that I that maybe's got a small estate of $25,000, and we just want to make sure that it goes to the right person. I need help. I've got People Clerk was one of our guests on the show, and they're literally trying to just help it make make it easier for people to process small claims on their own behalf, because small claims, if you haven't done it before, the paperwork for small claims is almost not worth filing the small claim, because it is so onerous. So things like that, I'd like to see them be able to not have to worry about getting hit by California or any other jurisdiction for the unauthorized practice of law, when what they're trying to do is just help people to process a small claim that we're all supposed to be able to do anyway. But the way that the legal system in America has made it, it's almost impossible to do it, because you don't understand what any of the wording on it says.
It's, even though there's not a lot of money involved, generally speaking, to those participants in small claims, it could be everything.
Right.
And I don't know if you know this or not, but for 4 or 5 years, I served as a judge in small claims court.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I'd put on the robe and go out there and do my thing. And I didn't enjoy it. And the reason I did not enjoy it, and I haven't pursued a judicialship over the years, is because what I noticed is the person that was prepared, that knew how to play the game, usually, for example, a landlord that does this every day, everything they submitted was done correctly. The evidence that they needed was presented. The other participant that oftentimes I could just tell was the victim, the person in the right. The paperwork wasn't filled out correctly. They didn't even know what evidence to submit. And as a small claims judge, you have to base your rulings on the evidence and the law. And the reason that's important, you guys, is even though I wanted to rule this way, I knew that you can appeal a small claims case, and it's basically just a retrial, but it starts getting expensive for everybody. Mm-hmm. And there are consequences to it. And so I think something like that, Nick, like what you were talking about, would be awesome. I mean, talk about leveling the playing field and allowing people to get these things resolved in a cost-effective way. Is that going to happen from people you talk to? I mean, I saw someone on Twitter I was going back and forth with today that knows a lot more about this than I do. Is this going to happen, or is it down the pipe someplace?
I think it's down the pipe, but I think lawyers should plan for these types of things and see how you can, for those, because there's always this concern by lawyers that we're going to lose business. And I think for a lot of these technologies that can assist with a lot of these things, it's really not going to impact any of the clients that lawyers want anyway, because you really want somebody who can pay the bill at the end. And a lot of these people aren't searching for legal services.
Interesting.
And that's a big market. So, but I think there's an opportunity there. There are some pushes for these advancements in Arizona and Utah and Colorado. California's got some interest level on it. They're dragging their feet a little bit. And this is separate from my experience with the California Lawyers Association. That is separate from the California State Bar, which is a governmental organization. So I think there's some changes there. It's in the future. I think it's coming, because I think I don't know when, but I think it is definitely coming. I think the
Good.
person that you're talking with on Twitter is somebody I told you she's
Yeah.
about to blow your socks off.
But that didn't happen though.
Yeah, don't worry, she'll get there.
No, it's very cordial. We're good.
Oh, she is very, but she's got so much data on this. Like she knows her stuff.
Yeah, it's an important topic, Nick, and
Yeah.
I'm behind it. I think the better the access to the justice system, the better. And I think, I've always had an abundance mentality where there's plenty of work for those that want to work. There needs to be plenty of resources for those that need resources. And when they converge and somebody needs a lawyer to help them, we're here to serve the community. We're here to help make society better. And that's the way I think lawyers need to think. So you got my back on that. So let's wrap things up with, for people listening to the podcast version of this episode, which will probably drop in a couple of weeks, if they want to either go to the experts.com website or Legal Tech, or connect with you more about Legal Tech apps and services and products, what's the best way for everyone to get in touch with you, Nick?
Yeah, it's for experts.com, you get me at nick@experts.com. Email me there. I'm there all the time. For Legal Tech Live, I'm just nick@legaltechlive.com. So
okay, pretty straightforward.
Or better than ever emailing me anything, get me on Twitter.
On Twitter?
Yeah, Twitter's always where I'm at. So
okay.
At experts.com VP or at Nick J. Rishwain, either one. Just type in Nick Rishwain, you'll find me.
Well, Nick, this has been one of my favorite shows. I'm so glad we had a chance to talk, because
it should be your favorite show, Mitch. I really want it to be your favorite show.
Ooh, look at this. Look at Nick's persuasion techniques.
Just tell me for my own ego that, yeah, this was my favorite.
Okay, you ready? Are you listening?
I am.
Nick, this was my favorite show of all time in the entire universe on live video forever.
I'm so happy to hear that, Mitch. So happy to hear that. I'm glad I could do that. Have a good day, Mitch.
Bye-bye, everybody.